On our last video, we started a numismatic journey based on Suetonius' book, The 12 Caesars, by looking at coins from the nemesis of the Roman Republic, Julius Caesar, as well as the first 5 emperors of the Roman Empire. In case you haven't seen this first episode, I'll leave a link in the video description down below. It's worth watching it if you like Roman imperial coins, and it will give you some context for this one. Today, we're looking at the last 6 emperors of this list: Galba, Otho, Vitellius, Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian. We left off at the end of the Julio-Claudian dynasty with the death of Emperor Nero after his disastrous reign by looking at a gold coin of his. Now, the empire is at war in a quick and violent civil war called the Year of the 4 Emperors. On 68 AD, the governor of Hispania, Galba, rose in revolt against Nero. Given Nero's precarious political position, he saw himself quickly without supporters. The Praetorians, multiple legions, even the Senate sided with Galba, leading to Nero's forced suicide and the establishment of Galba as emperor. He would rule from around June 68 to January 69, losing support as quickly as he gained it. The reason he lost support so quickly? Well, he wouldn't give away coins like this one I'm showing you quickly enough. He was too stingy. He refused to give bonus to his troops and forgot one of the main rules of being emperor. You're supposed to be generous with your supporters. In any case, here we have a rather worn, but still fully identifiable denarius of the man. It's interesting, the wear this coin has clearly indicates it must have circulated for decades, much long after the bloody civil war was over. It seems like no effort was made to withdraw this coin from circulation by subsequent emperors. That's a strong testament to how silver was, well, silver at the end of the day. It didn't matter if a coin had the face of someone undesirable, as long as it had its proper intrinsic value. Here we have the very old bust of Galba, as he was around 70 years old when he rose to power. The legends are rather simple. Imperator Servius Galba Augustus. You will forgive me for this reverse, that it is barely recognizable. This coin is probably within the range of what we would grade as good, but we can still make out all of the elements of the design. Very simple message. Virtus, the incarnation of virility, of manliness. Very adequate message for the times, especially since Galba wanted to pass the message of a restorer of order. The incarnation of Virtus is standing at the center of the design, holding in one hand a spear and on the other a parazonium, a kind of sword inside its scabbard. Initially in his revolt, Galba was supported by another provincial governor, Otho, the governor of Lusitania, as he promised him a prominent position as his next in line. When Galba turned his back on his promise, and seeing him lose support on all sides, Otho, well, he was like, time for revenge. He promised lavish payments to the Praetorian Guard, who quickly took the bride, and they just got rid of Galba. Otho seemed like a reasonable choice as an emperor, as the Senate quickly elevated him to the purple. Sadly, he also proved himself unable to gather enough troops to support his cause. As a result, he only ruled for 3 months, between January and April 69 AD. Denarii of Otho are very rare indeed, and in my opinion, these are the hardest to find from the Year of the 4 Emperors. As a testament to the good character of Otho, however, while he was on campaign against the next emperor and seeing his cause was lost, despite still having troops loyal to him, he was said to have claimed, "It is far more just to perish one for all than many for one." He then proceeded to kill himself, and the troops under his command were pardoned. This idea of a personal sacrifice in order to avoid the loss of Roman lives was actually highly praised by later Romans, citing Otho as an example of dignitas, one of the major Roman virtues. A famous Roman poet, Marcus Valerius Martialis, said the following on Otho's suicide: Although the goddess of civil warfare was still in doubt, and soft Otho had perhaps still a chance of winning, he renounced fighting that would have cost much blood, and with sure hand pierced right through his breast. By all means, let Cato in his life be greater than Caesar himself in his death. Was he greater than Otho? So after showering Otho in praise, let's head back to looking at his denarius. Otho was apparently very worried about his appearance, and he suffered from baldness, so this unusually full head of hair we can see here on a middle-aged man is actually a wig. The legends on the obverse show his imperial titles and his official recognition by the Roman Senate. Imperator Otho Caesar Augustus, tribunicia potestas. Heading to the reverse, we have securitas. Notice the message passed by Otho in his coin is much more benign than the one from Galba. In any case, sadly for him, this was not a time to be excessively diplomatic, as might made right. As I said, we have Securitas, the goddess of stability, the representation of the return to normalcy. She holds a laurel wreath and a scepter, and the legends read Securitas Populi Romani, stability for the Roman people. Even in such humble condition like this coin, which actually has a remarkably good metal, coins of Otho still command quite a premium, even in this condition, so make sure to save up a bit more than what you would typically spend on coins for the moment to buy an Otho, or when you're about to fight for one at auction, because it tends to be a little bit pricey. We then head to our next contestant in this meat grinder, Vitellius, commander of the Rhine legions, and with support of the legions of Raetia, Gaul, and Britannia, the next emperor. So he basically grabbed as many troops as he could, and he marched south towards Italy, and his armies just proved too much for Otho. After all, he commanded a heavily militarized area. Once with power secured, Vitellius, showing his true colors, well, he nearly became a second Nero. He threw lavish and expensive banquets, parties, gladiatorial matches. He showered the supporters from his armies with money and positions of power, quickly throwing Rome into a calamitous financial situation. He was just bleeding money from everywhere to buy as much support as he could. His flamboyant nature and disorderly rule, however, quickly gained him plenty of enemies as well, as the powerful legions of the East ended up raising their own general, a certain Titus Flavius Vespasianus, as the new emperor. And so it was that Vitellius also had a very short reign, from April to December 69 AD. So, how about we take a look at this lovely denarius of him? This one, for a change, is in pretty good condition. On the obverse, we have this very chubby bust of Vitellius. He didn't hide from anyone the fact he was quite overweight. Maybe the 3 huge banquets he organized every single day contributed to the weight issue. In any case, we have his laureate bust looking to the right, looking a little bit like Otho actually. Frankly, maybe the engravers were still adapting to what he looked like, and the legends around the border make reference to his command of the Germanic legions. Aulus Vitellius Germanicus, tribunicia potestas. Now that reverse is tough to make sense at first. We have a tall tripod with a cauldron at its top. Over the cauldron we have a dolphin, and underneath it a crow. Now, what the hell does that mean? Maybe the legends will help us. It reads, Quindecimviri Sacris Facundis, or Priesthood of the 15. This was the special college of magistrates elected to help with administrative matters of the Senate and the public administration in general. One of their most important roles was to organize the Ludes Seculares, a series of spectacular games that were supposed to be held once every generation. They also dealt with the incorporation of foreign cults and religions to the public life of Rome, particularly Eastern and Greek cults. That's why we have the tripod, the dolphin, and the crow, typical symbols of Apollo, a god that roughly represented the idea of the East and the patron god of this college of magistrates. Vitellius was likely a member of this league at some moment. Therefore, this unusual design was put on the denarius. But then at last the bloodshed came to an end with the rise of Vespasian, the first of the Flavian emperors. Vespasian was a very capable general, serving well under Claudius in Britannia and defeating the Jews at the first Jewish revolt. He was a good administrator, despite having the reputation of being a bit stingy and increasing taxation to what was considered a bit unreasonable at the time. But after all, he had to fix the mess Vitellius created with the economy. Vespasian ruled for 10 quite prosperous years. He began the construction of the Colosseum with the spoils he gathered from Judea, but he didn't live to see its completion. So let's take a look at this lovely denarius of the man, dated to 76 AD, so closer towards the end of his reign. Looking at the obverse, we have this very realistic bust of Vespasian. As we can see, the trend for realism on coinage iconography really took over at that time, a change from the idealized images of the Julio-Claudians. Check out the receding hairline, clearly visible. Vespasian wasn't a man blessed with a whole lot of beauty, and it shows here. In any case, apparently he was said to be quite pleasant to be around, so you wouldn't want to piss him off in any case. The legends followed the typical formula for the time. Imperator Caesar Vespasianus Augustus. Heading to the reverse, we have Pax. Just what the Romans needed, a bit of peace from that bloody civil war. In fact, the political stability brought forth by Vespasian allowed the empire to enjoy a golden age in the following century, with the public coffers being allowed time to recover and accumulate some money, as well as time for the population to actually grow and stabilize. In any case, we have Pax here, seated, and the legends advertise Vespasian's position as chief priest and his sixth consulship, Pontifex Maximus Tribunicia Potestas Consul Sextum. Vespasian gave way to his son, Titus. Titus was just as popular as his father, accompanying him on his campaigns and proving to be just as good of a military leader as his dad. Titus had a surprisingly short reign, between 79 and 81 AD, dying of a quick fever that took everyone by surprise. He was just 41 years old. His reign might have been short, but it definitely wasn't boring. That's for sure. He had to manage the internal crisis after the eruption of the Vesuvius in 79 AD, and he oversaw the completion of the Colosseum at the year 80. These two facts alone make coins of Titus, for me at least, have a certain magic. Imagine that. This coin I'm showing you was circulating at Rome when the Colosseum was inaugurated, and when Romans were talking about the eruption that ravaged Pompeii. Now, how about that for a cool historical object to own, eh? In any case, let's take a look at this piece. It is dated from the year 79. On the obverse, we have the bust of Titus, remarkably similar to his father in here, although this time he doesn't have the receding hairline. And the legends show his regnal name, as he adopted his father's name on his own. We read, Imperator Titus Caesar Vespasianus Augustus, Pontifex Maximus. Heading to the reverse, we have a lovely image of Venus reclined over a column, her clothes gently falling over her body. Quite a sexy image. She has her hair neatly tied to the back of her head, and she holds a helmet on her outstretched hand. This coin design was previously used by Augustus in one of his coins commemorating the victory over Mark Antony. The legends on this side advertise Titus's titles: Tribunicia Potestas for the 9th year, Imperator for the 14th year, now that is a lot of military command experience, Consul Septimus for consul for the 7th year, Pater Patriae, father of his nation. Overall, a lovely coin, dripping with historical value, and one of my favorite pieces in my collection. And we finally get to the last of the 12 Caesars, and likely the easiest and most affordable to obtain from all of the 12 guys. Domitian was raised in the shadow of his older brother, and it might have been the case that he was never meant to hold power really, meaning when circumstances raised him to emperor, he displayed an authoritarian disposition. He was rather popular with commoners and the army, but his relation with the Senate was absolutely awful, as he considered them merely an inconvenience in his plans. Despite records vilifying him as a tyrant, he showed remarkably good administrative skills, improving finances to a point that he could afford to increase the purity of his coins, making Roman coinage even more prestigious. He ruled for a long 15 years, being killed by a plot organized by the senators. With him, the Flavian dynasty and the reign of the 12 Caesars would come to an end, but instead of another civil war, a golden age would follow. So, to celebrate his diligent administration in matters of coinage, we shall show a gold aureus of Domitian. This particular piece was struck while he was still a Caesar under Vespasian in the year 79. On the obverse we have a bust that is strikingly similar to that of his brother, remarkably large coin with the full beading inside of the flan. This aureus seems to have circulated quite a bit as well, as it shows somewhere. I wonder where this coin went. After all, we're talking about a significant amount of money here, nearly a month's wages. It is not a coin that would be spent casually. In any case, the legends read, Caesar Augustus Filius, or Caesar, the son of the emperor, Domitianus consul for the 6th year. On the reverse, we have the goddess Vesta sitting on her throne, holding a scepter and a palladium. The palladium was a small statue that was placed inside the main temples of the city in days of important ceremonies. The legends read Princeps Juventutis, which literally translates to the first of the youth of Rome. Just like the emperor that was the Princeps, the first citizen, the position of Princeps Juventutis was commonly given to the Caesar to indicate he was the first among the future generation of leaders of the state. I would say that's a very republican way of calling someone a prince. And there we have it, the 12 Caesars of Suetonius, from Julius Caesar and the end of the Roman Republic to the death of Domitian and the cusp of the golden 2nd century. These coins definitely represented the transformation from a Rome that was a rising power in the Mediterranean and in the overall Mediterranean geopolitical stage to the uncontested superpower of Europe and beyond. Did you enjoy this presentation? If you did, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on more ancient coin content. Now it's your turn to tell us, which is your favorite of the 12 Caesars? Let us know in the comment section down below. So happy collecting, and I'll see you soon.